Good day. I'm coming with a share about 55th Jinki that I have in my profile twice, in the Venus sequence and in the Pearl sequence, and I stopped here in those both spheres because it is the widest Jinki to contemplate. It is the very special Jinki that has only two words: victim and freedom. Freedom is in a gift and in a CD, the same. And I'm going through it, and the shadow is a victim which is in a repressive nature, is complaining that actually by complaining I'm like cutting myself from my own power, and blaming, of course, it's the reactive one. So in this shadow, it's blaming others for everything, not only others but everything around, for my own state. And human consciousness, it totally drowns in it at the moment. The consciousness is completely and totally in a victim mode. And this 55th Jinki will awaken the huge change in the whole humanity and the whole world. It's like the activation of future humanity and future world. And it's just so beautiful how Richard explained it and put it in the words, and I wanted to share a fragment of it that touched me. Through profound resonance with the core frequency behind this work on the 64 Jinkis, it is possible to capture the spirit of the coming epoch. As you may begin to divine from the following pages, the ripples of this mutation will affect all corners of life on our planet. The other factor to bear in mind concerning the coming change is the speed at which it will overtake us. In evolutionary terms, it will happen overnight, although in practical, temporal terms, it will happen gradually and almost imperceptibly. We are talking about a genetic mutation that will slowly colonize our species. In other words, the old human will literally be bred out of humanity. This means that very soon there will be children born among us who carry the full mutation and who will spread it through the gene pool. These children will be different from us. They will not emotionally engage with us on a victim level, but will hold a higher frequency that will, over time, transform the families into which they are born. We will consider their role more fully toward the end of this Jinki. So, that's for now. Let's see what I will find more. Down the centuries, much has been written, spoken, and taught concerning the nature of higher consciousness. We are now entering an era in which more and more people will have direct access to an experience of true higher consciousness. Eventually, what occurs during this 21st century will spread to the entire collective and catalyze an age that even now we can only dream of. Up until now, the process of awakening has been understood and explained at an individual level only. Teachers, sages, and gurus have communicated their truth in a style suited to individuals. The emphasis has almost always been, how can I awaken? Two main elements within this question are now rapidly passing their sell-by date. The first is the question of how. As we shall see, the 55th Chinki will bring an end to the question of how. Secondly, the individual element of I will be gradually phased out by the coming changes of humanity. We are entering the age of we. Only when we have fully absorbed the truth that humanity is one collective we, will the final irony be delivered to us as we once again become a deeply mystical collective I. A vast and dynamic change in the form of genetic cellular mutation is coming to human beings. It is being triggered by this 55th Chinki and its related amino acid histidine. I hope I say it right. At a chemical level, your own body is in the process of preparing for this mutation as you read these words. The process is underway at a collective level too, and not a single human being is immune to it. At its highest level, the 55th Chinki is the release code for higher consciousness. There are many profound implications to this process, and there is a specific sequence of its unfolding. As we examine this Chinki in further depth, we shall try to look ahead to the kinds of changes we are facing and how they may affect us both as individuals and a society in general. Okay, I will just continue. It's a lot. If you want to listen, you just listen. You can take it in parts. It's okay, but it's also so important that I'm just gonna read it. Heavenly hydraulics. To understand the true nature of the coming awakening, one can find a beautiful parallel in the life cycle of a dragonfly. Dragonflies spend much of their early lives underwater. As underwater insects, they are known as nymphs. And unlike most pond insects, they do not have to come to the surface for air. For most of their lives, nymphs live totally underwater, where they are highly successful predators, feeding on anything from leaf litter to small fish. During the stage of its life, the nymph goes through a series of molts, stages of maturity in which it sheds its skin but still remains as a nymph. These stages of the insect's life can last several years, and during this time it has no idea whatsoever of kind of future lies ahead. It is undergoing a series of hidden mutations. Then one day, all of a sudden, some sleeping gene deep within is triggered, and the nymph does something totally out of character. It finds the stalk of a nearby plant and climbs out of the water. For the first time in its life, it tastes air and direct sunlight. Once the nymph has left the safety of its underwater environment, the sunlight begins to work on it, catalyzing what will be its final mold. It is at this stage that the true magic occurs, as the advanced creature hidden within the nymph cracks out the larva skin. Over a period of several hours, 4 crumpled wings appear, and the distinctive slender thorax begins to uncurl. What is of a great metaphorical relevance at this stage concerns the element of water. As the emerging dragonfly rises out of the element of water and prepares to be born into a new life in the element of air, the water that still lies within its body becomes the key to the transformation process. Through a process of hydraulics, the water within the nymph's body is pumped into the emerging wings and thorax, causing them to unfurl and spread out for the first time. In other words, the dragonfly assumes its aerodynamic shape by means of the water from its old life. This water is what drives its mutation from nymphs to dragonfly. As soon as all the water is expanded and the dragonfly is fully extended, it takes to the air and begins in new life. The life cycle of the dragonfly is a perfect metaphor for the awakening of the 55th gift and CD. So the higher level of consciousness of this gene key. The raw energy of your emotion becomes the vehicle for the unfurling of your future awareness. And once that awareness is born, your life exists forever on higher plane. This metaphor also shows us that as a species we must dive deeply into the emotional field, where we will go through a series of mutations of which we are gradually unaware. Whilst we exist in the world of emotions, we will have little inkling of the life that lies ahead of us. When the 55th shadow finally mutates fully, the collective awakening will truly begin in earnest. Yeah, and me holding this gene key, double gene key, I was always going through very strong emotions and being deeply in a victim mode. Then I denied my emotions, and now I'm coming back seeing that I cannot bypass it. First of all, I have to dive in my emotions, dive deeply into my emotions and share from those waters, really bring the gifts from those waters. What do I feel? And I cannot escape it. That's what my feeling is. And going through now, bringing those jewels out of the water to the surface, then the mutation can really happen. The early stages of the awakening sequence. We will examine the specific timing and sequence of this awakening at the end of the section. At present, in relation to the dragonfly metaphor, we are in the stages of climbing up the stem out of the water and into the sunlight. The world genetic stage is in the full sway of this drama, and because of this it can be deeply confusing time. You may already be having glimpses and premonitions of what is to come, as your body and your psyche becomes the battlefield for this mutative process, particularly if you carry the 55th gene gift as one of your prime gifts. You may be highly susceptible to wild fluctuations in your normal rhythms, energy patterns and emotions. This is a deep process of integration that will last a considerable time, but that will gradually become more stable. The early stages of the awakening up until 2012 are set to be the most volatile phase of the process. It is during this phase that our emotional system are literally being broken down. Two gene keys are strongly connected with the 55th gift, its programming partner, the 59th gift of intimacy and the 39th gift of dynamism. They are also highly active in this process of awakening. The 39th gift and its CD of liberation will change every emotional facet of our nature. You can see here the direct relationship between these two higher states of liberation and freedom. The 39th CD actually provokes the final state of freedom. CD is the highest level of the consciousness. It's like divine embodiment of the highest consciousness. It will be available for human beings. Up until now, only few human beings reached the CD state of consciousness, and it will be more and more available for all of us, or for the ones who will come. Yeah. Liberation is a dynamic process, whereas freedom is a release. Freedom is a release. Liberation is a dynamic process. Equally powerful is the 59th CD of transparency, which awakens simultaneously with the 55th CD. You can see the hidden agenda beneath the awakening process in this CD. We humans are being forced to become transparent, like the dragonfly's wings. Yeah, and it is about being transparent, about being completely naked with our feelings, with what we mean, with what we need. This is also what I'm practicing now, to really be fully transparent. There is no other way to be healthy, to awaken. We need to be transparent. The 59th gift of intimacy is the first step along this road. We have to allow life to crack our hearts open throughout our relationships. It is about really opening the heart, becoming really vulnerable, becoming really intimate, naked, transparent. We already know that the 55th Jinki is about romance, which is why the awakening of the 55th Jinki gift is about relationships. After this awakening has occurred, one will no longer exist as an individual. Awareness will operate collectively. The early shattering of the sense of separateness will take place through your intimate relationships. From now on, the more you try to hide from others, the more suffering you will bring upon yourself. From now on, the more you want to hide yourself, the more suffering you will bring to yourself. Every hidden agenda must be aired and destroyed. The mind's obsessive grip on separatedness must also be destroyed. This is the end of the age of selfishness. This is the end of the age of selfishness. Me and my process, me and my wealth, me and my agenda, me and my success. Me. It's the end of that age. There will be many who will resist this mutation, for sure. And there must be. They are not a part of what is to come, and this must be respected. Through these people, old energy will leave the world. And we have to accept it. Not everybody will go through the mutation. Not everybody will stay on earth ready to embody the new mutations, the new vibrations. Not everybody. There are people who will stay in the old system, in the old beliefs, and they will leave the planet. There is no choice in it. It is a matter of the collective selection of appropriate genetic material for the future human. Yes, I like it. As we have seen, the 55th shadow is rooted in the notion of being a victim, and in particular of being a victim of emotions, whether your own or someone else's. After the awakening of the 55th gift, The concept of emotions belonging to someone will be absurd. Emotions operate in a wave frequency, and at a collective level there is only one wave which connects us all together. That some people may generate this wave and others may receive it is simply mechanics. Like the symbol of the dragonfly, our new awareness will lift us above the dark waters of the victim consciousness, but this will not be a simple transcendence. We will not become less human in this process. In fact, the process can only be triggered by such a deep submersion into our human wounding that it becomes the very catalyst of our transcendence. The process of awakening is a process that has long been known. It is most accurately described through the esoteric science of alchemy. In traditional Taoist alchemy, there is a secret formula known as the Kan and Li. Kan means water, Li means fire. In this alchemical formula, the solar plexus is seen as a cauldron, and emotional energy is the water within the cauldron. The fire beneath the cauldron is awareness, also known as Qi. And this awareness is said to cook the emotional energy, also known as Jing. The result is a process of steaming in which a third transcendent force arises to the process. I love to read it. I just love to read it. This alchemy, fire and water that give birth to the third. I love this symbol also. I share it sometimes. These two circles, and between there is this mandorla, the almond shape, which is the place that the third is being born, like it's a female May and the third is being born when they are merging together. The same heaven and earth, and the third is born. Dark and light, the third is born in the middle. Same here. The Chinese call this third force Shen, which means spirit. Shem in the Hebrew, Shen in the Chinese. Western alchemy uses similar archetypes but in a different cultural way. In the West, we tend to see the two forces as a man and woman within us, animus and anima. These two copulate in a mystical union, giving birth to a magical child, often seen as a Mercury. In the language of the 64 Gene Keys, the shadow state is the raw material of eventual transcendence. Without diving deeply into our shadows, and freeing the awareness from its roots, we will never experience the elation of the vaporization of the victim consciousness within us. Only on those blissful vapors can rise above the emotional depths and surf the collective wave. It is a truth. For me, it is a truth. And the whole Jinkies are operating in this way that, first of all, each Jinki shows what is the shadow. What is the shadow that we are dealing with? And each one is dealing with it. And we know it all. And first thing you get to know in a reading is exactly this. And from knowing the shadow, how it operates, you can accept it and find the gifts there. And when you accept it, when you start to love it, when you start to see it and take it into your body, then the gifts are just simply naturally emerging. The light is coming in and we start to shine. That was my lifelong process, I was hating myself. I was hating the way I feel. I was hating my shadows. As soon as I started to see it as a part of me, I started to accept it, more and more love I started to feel towards myself. More and more light was entering my body. More and more I was shining. And the gifts are born naturally out of that. Many, many gifts. So if you are curious also about yours, I invite you to meet me. I invite you to the reading of your genius and getting to know your shadows, getting to know your jewels that you carry. It's a beautiful journey. There are two main phases to the awakening triggered by the 55th gene gift. The first phase is represented by this rising up of mass consciousness out of the shadow of victim consciousness. As this occurs, we will see the world as we currently know in a gradually changed shape. Up until now, only small percentage of human beings have managed to escape shadow state and deliver the gift to the world. Only very, very few have attained the Siddhic level of consciousness. This is all exactly as it should be. Again. Each frequency band depends upon that below and above it. In other words, the more people that are transcending their shadow state, the more chance there is for someone at a higher level to make the leap in the Siddhic level. So, in other words, the more people that are transcending their shadows, so when most of us or more of us come to know our shadows, transform this, the whole consciousness is rising. As a collective, we are really one. So everything matters what we do, really everything. You can embrace your shadow and somebody else on the end of the world will jump and leap into the Siddhic consciousness. This is how it works. We are one. I love it. Finally, somebody talking my language. It's said in such a way that I couldn't say it better, but I feel it in my whole body, and I'm so grateful for this transmission that came through Richard Rudd. I love it. The Jinkies. It's my really love. It may take 100,000 people living at the gift level to provide the momentum for one being to make the leap of the Siddhic level. By the same token, one person at the Siddhic level provides the collective frequency for thousands to escape the lower frequency of their shadow and begin to live out of the gifts. This is the thing, no? As a collective, it's incredible. Like thousands of people coming out of the shadow can give the energy for one to go to the Siddhic consciousness, level of consciousness. But one on the Siddhic consciousness level can actually awaken thousands of people from the shadow. It's like that was the Jesus Christ, no? Yeshua, Maria Magdalena. They were on a Siddhic level of consciousness. They were affecting thousands of people. Thousands. This is how it works, like Buddha. Those human beings that reach this level of consciousness, that's how it works. So it's beautiful. Like when a person is freed from the shadow state, they become creative conduit for life itself. They also begin to fulfill their true destiny with the whole. The final destiny of the whole is represented by the 50th Siddhi and the 6th Siddhi, harmony and peace. This means that as a person begins to do what they love to do in life, they begin to co-create these conditions on the physical plane. It's like me, I started to do what I love, so which is this gene key reading, and this brings the change on the physical plane. As a process, this may take hundreds or even thousands of years to reach its final phase. What it does, like the dragonfly, our entire planet will mutate to its next phase of evolution in another reality, represented by the 28th city of immortality. I know it's a lot. I think I will go. Okay. A little bit more. If you have enough, you just stop and then we can come back, no? This word freedom is truly a dimensionless word. As we begin this process of transcending our shadows, miracles can occur in our lives. Freedom is the spirit of the 55th gift. It is the spirit of humanity. As your awareness stretches, the spirit of freedom breaks down the barriers in your life. The fractal lines open all around you, and energy that was lying choked in a certain dimension suddenly precipitates unforeseen beneficial circumstances in your life. Every aspect of your life is interconnected. So, breakthrough at the source of your being will ripple out into all areas that you perhaps didn't even remember existed. Woohoo! The threefold awakening sequence. That might be really interesting for some of you. There are some years that we talk about here, and you know those dates, and you're asking for those dates, so I'm gonna read this. In part 1 of this gene key, we looked at the threefold pattern inherent to all universal rhythms, and we charted this through the evolutionary phases of the 3 eons. And our current sub-phase, known as the 333, which holds the master genetic sequence for closing the eons. In the last 20 years or so, the world has indeed undergone vast changes in its inner structure. As we move through this incredible portal, we can identify 3 distinct dates. Probably you guessed some dates. What was the years that are really like ping? These markers are points of shift written into the vibrational score of our evolution. There are 9087, the harmonic convergence. Sorry for my English. 2012, the melodic resonance. 2027, the rhythmic symphony. These 3 phases of harmony, melody, and rhythm form the imprint field for a complete restructuring of all vibrational life on our planet. So yes, this 2027, it's another date. Up until then, we are still in a very strong cooking pot of emotions and all the bullshit coming up and all that we struggle with. There is a sense in all of that. If we believe and trust that we can really grow out of that, and we help each other to, when we fall down, to give a hand and come up again and walk together, there is a deeper sense to all of that. We are really transmuting. We are alchemizing. We are the ones who came in such a moment of time that, yes, we took a lot to transmute. And yeah, yesterday my beloved sister Alexandra, that I live with, she came and she shared that actually, I don't remember those years now, but there are many years that all of us around this 30, 40 years old now, we have a Pluto in Scorpio, which means that we are really going through the depths of depths and bringing it up to the light. So yes, we are those ones who signed up for this. We are the ones to do it. So we better do it. But it's also okay if some of us decide to leave the planet. It's also okay. That's the choice, that free will. Each one of us, we can log out of this matrix and come back or not. That's our choice. This is how does it work? And yeah, we have this free will, and let's just accept it and of course support each other. But yeah, this is the way it also happens. Some of us will go away. Yeah, something maybe interesting about this. Oh yeah, this big. Many different mystics and ancient calendar system have long predicted the great turning point of human evolution coming to a climax in this current age. 2027 Rhythmic Symphony. The human design system, one of the great systems that laid the foundation for this work on the 64 Jinkies, uses the 64 codes of the ancient I Ching as a kind of genetic clock to measure the timing of potential future mutation in human DNA. As a genetic clock, it predicts that the huge genetic mutation will sweep through the solar plexus system of humanity, beginning in the year 2027. As such, the year 2027 is a difficult year to put into words. The coming consciousness shift will be an implosion of extremely high frequencies Siddhic consciousness. Certainly, after this date, nothing will ever be the same again. Oh, I feel it in my body. Beginning in the year 2027, our planet will begin a gradual process of falling silent into a state of awe. Zachwit. Between 2012 and 2027, a core awakening fractal. I don't know if you can see it, but I really have thrills, like goosebumps. Between this 2012 and 2027 core awakening fractal of humanity will lay the foundation of a new world that will, over many generations, reshape this planet from the inside out. The old system will crumble as the new order arises unscathed within their midst. This time will mark the phase of recreating Eden, which never left this planet but remained as an energetic blueprint. Harmony and melody will be synthesized here into divine universal rhythm. This is the Christ consciousness coming back. This is the Christ coming back to the earth. This is the consciousness level that Christ Yeshua was holding. This is coming back to the earth. It's not his as a human being. No, it's the higher conscious Siddhic level of consciousness coming back. Yeah, the harmony and melody will be synthesized here into divine universal rhythm. For the first time, humanity will hear and be the virtuoso soloist in the great symphony of the spheres. At a certain point in our future, beyond 2027, we will finally discover the wonder of simply being. there really will be nothing left to do on earth but enjoy the garden, something our species has not yet managed to do. But it's not time yet to just be and sit in the garden. It's not the time yet. Now, still, we have a lot of work to do. We have to go through the depths of the waters, through the depths of the shit coming out of the basement. We still have some years to go through that, to really feel what shadows we hold, what bullshit we created. We are still have to dive through this, express what is painful, express what we feel, to stand, to be ready in this 2027. Okay, for sure I'm gonna read part 3, the manifestations. You know, I'm looking at the timing. It's incredible what I'm saying on when there is 333, 444. Now when it was 44 minutes, 0.4, I said the manifestations. So, the marriage of a sacred couple. As we touched upon previously, the coming shift will precipitate the end of the age of the individual I and the beginning of the age of the collective we. There are multiple stages in this process, and the first stage concerns a major shift in the frequency of relationships in our planet. On our planet. The awakening will bring many new phenomena into the world, one of which we have always dreamed of, but never yet attained. The ideal of the sacred marriage. The contemporary institution of marriage is an attempt to capture this ideal of the physical plane. However, marriages and relationships until now, even the clearest and purest, have not been able to fully embody the principle of a marriage as its highest potential. The actual sharing of the same aura, sharing of the same aura. In order for the ideal of the sacred couple to exist on the physical plane, there must first be a melding of awareness. This is the unio mystica or conjunctio spoken of by the alchemists. Enlightenment or realization has always been a state that flowers an individual, and historically the world has never seen an enlightened couple in its truest sense. Oh wow, I thought it was Maria Magdalena and Yeshua. Really? We may have seen symbolic examples, and there are certainly couples who have experienced these states together for short periods of time. However, the first stage is the breaking down of barriers between the human forms, with the healing of the yin-yang split between man and woman. The ancestral pressure between the sexes is so vast that it has thus far prevented true melding. When the first relationships experience dual enlightenment, we will know that the deepest wound of all has finally been healed. The wound symbolized by the division and fall of Adam and Eve. When I said Adam, it was 44 again and 4. These sacred marriages will have an unbelievable energy field around them. In fact, they will be at the core of whole new communities. They will be at the core of whole new communities, the sacred marriages. Such experiences will herald the end of sexuality as we know it today, because the same genetic force that ripples the sexes in the force responsible for mating. In other words, the human sexual force will gradually be sublimed into creativity and higher consciousness. Over time, this means that the population of our planet will go through a steady and consistent decline. The ancient symbol for 55th Jinki is the cup of abundance or the sacred chalice, the grail. At the shadow level of consciousness, this cup is never full. On the shadow level of this consciousness, this cup is never full. One side of the relationship is always pulling, another is pushing. One needing and the other rejecting. Yeah, this we know very well, no? This we know so well. Oh, madre mia. This situation is caused because of the human tendency to blame, which creates a constant dynamic in the relationship whereby both partners drain each other. Yes. In the human relationship, there are coming. The cup is neither half full or half empty. No. There is only one awareness in the relationship, so the cup is always overflowing. We will no longer fall in love, but we will rise in love. Hallelujah, hallelujah. The great love that exists between the yin and yang will finally shatter the illusion of our separatedness and release the endless font of energy from the nucleus of creation itself. Ultimately, we will be throughout the extent families and communities of these sacred marriages that the new awareness will spread. Ultimately, it will be throughout the extended families and communities of these sacred marriages that the new awareness will spread. Let's see.